Mornings in class were always the same. Quiet, predictable, almost invisible. Sunlight slipped gently through the tall windows, casting soft golden lines across the desks. The kind of light that made everything feel calm, even when it wasn't. Voices filled the room. Laughter, gossip, random conversations that didn't really matter. Everyone had their place, their group, their world. And then, there was me, sitting by the window. Like always. Not because I liked being alone, but because that's where no one expected anything from me. My notebook lay open in front of me. Not for notes. Not for school. Just sketches. Lines, shapes. Unfinished thoughts turned into something visible. It was easier that way. Drawing made sense. People didn't. I moved my pencil slowly, letting it glide across the page without thinking too much. Because thinking too much usually made things complicated. You're always drawing, aren't you? Her voice broke through everything. Soft. Familiar. I paused. Just for a second. Before looking up. And there she was. Standing right next to my desk. Smiling. Like she always did. The kind of smile that didn't feel forced. Didn't feel fake. Just real. It helps pass the time, I said quietly. My voice wasn't loud. It never was. But she always heard it. She leaned slightly closer, looking at my sketch. You're really good, she said. I shook my head a little. It's nothing. But she didn't agree. She never did. You always say that, she smiled. And for a moment, everything else in the room faded. The noise. The people. The distance between worlds. It didn't matter. Because when she looked at me like that, it felt like I belonged somewhere. Even if it was just for a moment. She pulled the chair next to me and sat down. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. And maybe, for her, it was. You're coming after school, right? She asked. I looked at her, slightly confused. Where? She laughed softly. See? You don't listen. We are all hanging out. Near the parking lot. A small pause. You should come. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't sure if I belonged there. Places like that weren't really mine. Crowds. Popular people. It wasn't my world. She noticed. Of course she did. She always noticed. Come on, she said softly. Just for a little while. Her tone wasn't pushy. It wasn't demanding. It was warm. And that made it harder to say no. I looked back down at my sketch for a second, then nodded slightly. All right. Her face lit up instantly. Like it actually mattered. Like I mattered. Good, she said. Then stood up, heading back toward her friends. And just like that, the moment was gone. The noise came back. The distance returned. Everything went back to normal. I stared at the page in front of me again. But my hand didn't move this time. Because something felt different. Small. Almost unnoticeable. But there. Like the beginning of something. Or maybe, the beginning of the end. I glanced out the window, watching the sunlight shift slowly across the ground. Calm. Peaceful. Unchanging. Unlike everything else. Because later that day, something was going to happen. Something small. Something simple. Something that didn't look important at first. But it was. Because that moment would change everything I thought I knew. About her. About people. And about myself. I just didn't know it yet. Night had a way of changing everything. The same places. The same streets. The same people. All felt different once the sun disappeared. Quieter. Slower. More honest. I stepped into the parking lot alone. My footsteps echoing softly against the empty ground. No crowd. No noise. Just the distant hum of the city. And the faint glow of streetlights stretching across the pavement. This was the part of the day I preferred. When no one was watching. When no one expected anything. I slid my hands into my pockets, walking forward slowly. My eyes fixed ahead. And then, there it was. Parked under a single streetlight. Still. Silent. Perfect. The black sports car. its surface reflecting the dim lights around it like glass. Smooth, untouched, almost unreal. Most people at school didn't even know it existed. And the ones who didn't know it was mine. I preferred it that way. No attention. No assumptions. No fake respect. Just silence. I stopped a few steps away, taking a quiet breath. It wasn't about showing off. It never was. This car wasn't just a car. It was distance. From expectations. From people who only cared about what they could see. I pulled the keys out slowly, the metal catching a small glint of light. For a moment, I just stood there, not moving, not thinking, just existing in the quiet. Then, click. The sound was soft, but it echoed in the empty space. The headlights blinked once. A quiet confirmation. Like the car itself had woken up. I walked closer, my reflection becoming clearer on its surface. A version of me no one really saw. Not at school. Not in class. Not even her. I reached the door, resting my hand lightly against it. Cool. Smooth. Real. Everything about this moment felt controlled. Simple. Predictable. Unlike everything else in my life. I opened the door slowly, the interior lighting glowing softly in the darkness. Clean. Quiet. Just like I liked it. I sat inside, closing the door behind me. The outside world faded instantly. No noise. No distractions. Just me, and the silence. I rested my hands on the steering wheel, staring forward through the windshield. The city lights shimmered in the distance, blurred slightly by the faint mist in the air. It looked peaceful, almost perfect. But I knew better. Things always looked calm, right before they changed. I let out a slow breath, thinking about earlier, about her, the way she smiled, the way she asked me to come, the way it felt, like maybe I belonged somewhere. I tightened my grip slightly on the wheel, then relaxed it again. Yeah, I murmured quietly. We'll see. Because something about today felt off. Not wrong. Just different. Like a small shift. Before something bigger. I pressed the ignition. The engine came to life with a low, controlled sound. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just powerful. The kind of power that didn't need attention. I looked ahead again. My reflection faintly visible in the glass. Calm. Expressionless. Unreadable. Exactly how I needed to be. Because whatever was waiting tomorrow, whatever that moment would bring, I had a feeling. This car, this secret, was going to matter. More than anyone expected. Including her. By the time I reached school the next morning, something already felt off. Not obvious. Not loud. Just different. The kind of feeling you can't explain. But you can't ignore either. The entrance was louder than usual. Groups of students gathered near the parking area. Whispering, laughing, reacting to something. That alone wasn't strange. But the way they were looking. Focused, excited, almost impressed. That was new. I slowed my steps slightly, my eyes shifting toward the center of the crowd. And then I saw it. The car. My car. Parked right there. In the open. Under full daylight. My expression didn't change. But something inside me paused. Because I knew immediately. Something wasn't right. I moved closer. Slowly. Quietly. Blending into the edge of the crowd. No one noticed me. Of course they didn't. Their attention was already taken. By him. He leaned casually against the car. Like it belonged to him. Relaxed. Confident. Completely at ease. The school hunk. The guy everyone admired. The kind of person who didn't need to explain anything. Because people just believed it. No way, is that yours? Someone asked. He smirked slightly. Not confirming. Not denying. Just letting them assume. And that was enough. The reactions came instantly. That's insane. I knew he was rich. Look at this car. I stood there. Silent. Watching. Not surprised. But not indifferent either. Because this wasn't just about the car. It was about how easily people believed what they wanted to see. Confidence over truth. Image over reality. I glanced at him again. He looked comfortable. Like this moment belonged to him. Like he had always been standing there. And maybe, in their eyes, he had. My gaze shifted slightly. And then I saw her, standing just a few steps away, watching him, the same way everyone else was, but different, softer, more focused, like she wasn't just impressed, she was drawn in. My chest tightened slightly. Not pain, not yet, just awareness. She took a step closer to him, then another, and just like that, the distance between them disappeared. He said something. I couldn't hear it. But she laughed. That same laugh. The one I heard yesterday. The one that felt real. Except this time, it wasn't directed at me. I stayed where I was. Not stepping forward. Not interrupting. Just watching everything unfold. Because something inside me already knew. This wasn't something I could stop. Not with words. Not with explanations. Not even with truth. Because truth didn't matter here. Not when people had already decided what they believed. You're really something, she said to him softly. My fingers tightened slightly at my side. Not enough to show. Just enough to feel. He smiled again. That effortless, confident smile. And the crowd reacted exactly the way you'd expect. Like he deserved it. Like it was natural. I looked at the car one more time. Then back at him. Still leaning against it. Still owning the moment. And for a brief second, I thought about stepping forward. Saying something. Clearing it up. But then I stopped myself. Because I realized something important. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was a choice. Not mine. Theirs. They chose what to believe. And sometimes, people don't want the truth. They want the version that looks better. Sounds better. Feels better. Even if it's wrong. I took a slow step back. Then another. Quietly. Unnoticed. Just like always. And as I walked away, one thought stayed with me. Not about him. Not about the crowd. But about her. Because if she couldn't recognize what was mine, then maybe she never really understood me at all. And that was where everything started to change. The cafeteria was loud. Just like always. Conversations overlapping. Trays clattering. Laughter echoing from every corner. It should have felt normal. Familiar. But today, something about it felt distant. Like I was sitting in the middle of everything. But not really part of it. I sat across from her. Just like I had so many times before. Same table. Same seats. Nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. She was there. Right in front of me. But her attention wasn't. Her eyes kept drifting. Just slightly. Just enough to notice. Toward the other side of the room. Toward him. I didn't follow her gaze at first. I didn't need to. I already knew. Still, after a moment, I looked. And there he was. Surrounded by people. Laughing. Talking. Like the center of everything. Just like this morning. Just like always, apparently. I looked back at her. She smiled faintly. But it wasn't the same. It wasn't the smile she gave me yesterday. It wasn't even the smile she gave me this morning. This one felt distracted. Like her mind was somewhere else. You're quiet today, she said softly. I blinked once. Then gave a small shrug. Just tired, I replied. It wasn't a lie. But it wasn't the truth either. She nodded. But didn't ask anything more. And that was new. She used to ask. She used to notice. She used to care enough to push a little further. Now, she didn't. A small silence settled between us. Not heavy. Just empty. I picked at my food absent-mindedly. Not really hungry. Just filling the space. She glanced past me again. Quick. Almost unnoticeable. But I noticed. Of course I did. Because once you see something, you can't unsee it. He's actually really nice, she said suddenly. My hand stopped moving. Just for a second. I looked up at her. Who? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Him, she said, glancing in his direction again. We talked earlier. Of course you did. I didn't say it out loud. I just nodded slightly. Yeah. Yeah, she smiled. He's not what people think. I almost smiled at that. Not because it was funny, but because it was ironic. People not being what they seem. Yeah. I knew something about that too. That's good, I said calmly. My voice steady. Controlled. Like nothing was wrong. She nodded again. Then looked back down at her tray. And just like that, the conversation ended. No follow-up. No effort to continue. Just silence. I leaned back slightly in my chair, my eyes drifting toward the window. The sunlight was softer now, fading slowly as the day moved forward. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same, because something had shifted. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a crack forming in something you thought was solid. I looked back at her one last time. She was still there, still sitting across from me, still close enough to reach, but somehow, further away than ever. And that's when it hit me. Not as pain, not as anger, but as something quieter, something heavier. The realization that I wasn't losing her in one moment. I was losing her, little by little, right in front of me, and there was nothing I could do to stop it, because she wasn't being taken away. She was choosing to drift, and that hurt more than anything else. The sky turned grey before anyone noticed. One moment it was just another day, and the next, everything felt heavier. By the time school ended, the rain had already started. Soft at first, almost gentle, like it wasn't sure if it wanted to stay. Students rushed past me, laughing, complaining, running toward shelter. Some shared umbrellas. Some didn't bother. But no one stayed still. No one, except me. I stood just outside the school building, watching the rain fall steadily onto the empty pavement, each drop hitting the ground with a soft, repetitive sound. Calm, almost peaceful, if you didn't think too much about it. I could have left. I should have left. But for some reason, my feet didn't move. Maybe I was waiting. Not for anything specific. Just something. Someone. I glanced back toward the school entrance. People were still coming out in groups, voices blending with the sound of the rain. And then, I saw her. My chest tightened slightly. Not sharply. Just enough to feel it. She stepped outside, pausing for a moment under the roof, looking at the rain. I thought, maybe she'd come over. Maybe she'd stand next to me like she used to. Maybe she'd say something simple, something normal. But she didn't, because a second later, he appeared behind her. Of course he did. Like the moment was designed that way. He held an umbrella casually in one hand, stepping forward without hesitation. She turned to him, smiling. That same smile, the one I used to think was mine. He said something. She laughed. And just like that, they stepped into the rain together, under the same umbrella. Close. Comfortable. Like it was natural. Like it had always been that way. I stood there, watching them walk away, slowly disappearing through the rain. And for a moment, everything went quiet again. Not because the world stopped, but because something inside me did. The rain started to fall harder, louder, heavier, and without thinking, I stepped forward, out from under the shelter, into the rain. Cold drops hit my face instantly, soaking into my hair, my clothes, my skin. But I didn't react. I didn't move back. I just stood there, letting it happen. Because somehow, it felt right. Like the outside finally matched what was inside. Quiet. Heavy. Unavoidable. I looked down slightly, watching the rain hit the ground around my feet. Ripples forming. Overlapping. Disappearing just as quickly as they came. Temporary. Just like everything else. I let out a slow breath, barely noticeable through the sound of the rain. Yeah, I murmured quietly. Not to anyone. Just to myself. Because there was nothing left to say. Nothing left to question. No confusion anymore. Just clarity. She wasn't drifting away. She had already left. I just didn't want to see it before. The rain kept falling. Washing over everything. The noise. The memories. The moments that used to mean something. And I stood there. Alone in the middle of it. Not waiting anymore. Not hoping. Just understanding. Because sometimes, the hardest truth isn't that someone changed. It's realizing they were never who you thought they were. And by the time you see it clearly, it's already too late. By the time I reached the parking lot, the rain had slowed. Not gone. Just quieter. Like the world was holding its breath. The streetlights reflected off the wet ground, turning everything into blurred gold and shadows. It should have felt calm. But it didn't. Because something inside me already knew. This wasn't over yet. I walked slowly, my footsteps barely making a sound against the soaked pavement. And then I saw it. The car, parked under the same light. Still. Silent. Waiting. But this time, I wasn't alone. My steps slowed. Then stopped. Because inside the car, there were two silhouettes. Close. Too close. My chest tightened. Not suddenly. Not sharply. Just enough to feel the weight of it. I didn't move. Didn't call out. Didn't step closer. I just stood there. Watching. Because some part of me already knew what I was about to see. I just didn't want it to be real. The car's interior lights flickered softly. Just enough to reveal their faces. And there she was. Sitting in the passenger seat. Smiling. Not confused. Not hesitant. Just happy. Like she belonged there. Like this moment was right. He leaned closer. Slow. Confident. Like he had no reason to doubt it. And she didn't stop him. She didn't pull away. She didn't even pause. She leaned in too. And then, it happened. They kissed. Soft. Natural. Effortless. Like it wasn't the first time. Like it wasn't wrong. Like it didn't break anything. But it did. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Something inside me cracked. And the worst part wasn't the kiss. It wasn't him. It wasn't even the moment. It was her. The way she looked at him. The way she didn't hesitate. The way she didn't look around. Like there was nothing to hide. Like there was nothing to lose. My fingers curled slightly at my side. Not tight. Just enough to remind me. I was still there. Still watching. Still part of something that no longer included me. They pulled apart slowly. Still close. Still smiling. And then I heard it. Her voice. Soft. Light. Happy. Your car is amazing, she said. I blinked once. Slow. Processing. Your car. Not mine. His. She thought it was his. A quiet breath left my lips. Not a laugh. Not really. Just something empty. Because somehow, that made it worse. Not better. She wasn't just choosing him. She didn't even recognize what was mine. What I gave. What I was. To her. It didn't matter. Not enough. He smirked slightly, leaning back like he owned the moment. Like he owned everything. And for a brief second, I almost felt bad for him. Because he didn't know. He had no idea. But she should have. And that's what stayed with me. Not the kiss. Not the lie. But the realization that I wasn't losing something valuable. I was seeing the truth. Too late. But clearly. I took a slow step back. Quiet. Unnoticed. Just like always. And as I turned away, one thought stayed with me. Not angry. Not broken. Just certain. This wasn't the moment I lost her. This was the moment. I understood. She was never really mine to begin with. By the time I reached the parking lot, the rain had slowed. Not gone. Just quieter. Like the world was holding its breath. The streetlights reflected off the wet ground, turning everything into blurred gold and shadows. It should have felt calm. But it didn't. Because something inside me already knew. This wasn't over yet. I walked slowly, my footsteps barely making a sound against the soaked pavement. And then I saw it. The car, parked under the same light. Still, silent, waiting. But this time, I wasn't alone. My steps slowed, then stopped, because inside the car, there were two silhouettes. Close, too close. My chest tightened. Not suddenly, not sharply, just enough to feel the weight of it. I didn't move, didn't call out, didn't step closer. I just stood there, watching, because some part of me already knew what I was about to see. I just didn't want it to be real. The car's interior lights flickered softly, just enough to reveal their faces. And there she was, sitting in the passenger seat, smiling, not confused, not hesitant, just happy, like she belonged there, like this moment was right. He leaned closer, slow, confident, like he had no reason to doubt it. And she didn't stop him. She didn't pull away. She didn't even pause. She leaned in too. And then, it happened. They kissed. Soft, natural, effortless. Like it wasn't the first time. Like it wasn't wrong. Like it didn't break anything. But it did. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Something inside me cracked. And the worst part wasn't the kiss. It wasn't him. It wasn't even the moment. It was her. The way she looked at him. The way she didn't hesitate. The way she didn't look around. Like there was nothing to hide. Like there was nothing to lose. My fingers curled slightly at my side. Not tight. Just enough to remind me. I was still there. Still watching. Still part of something that no longer included me. They pulled apart slowly. Still close. Still smiling. And then I heard it. Her voice. Soft. Light. Happy. "Your car is amazing," she said. I blinked once. Slow. Processing. Your car. Not mine. His. She thought it was his. A quiet breath left my lips. Not a laugh. Not really. Just something empty. Because somehow, that made it worse. Not better. She wasn't just choosing him. She didn't even recognize what was mine. What I gave. What I was. To her. It didn't matter. Not enough. He smirked slightly, leaning back like he owned the moment. Like he owned everything. And for a brief second, I almost felt bad for him. Because he didn't know. He had no idea. But she should have. And that's what stayed with me. Not the kiss. Not the lie. But the realization that I wasn't losing something valuable. I was seeing the truth. Too late. But clearly. I took a slow step back. Quiet. Unnoticed. Just like always. And as I turned away, one thought stayed with me. Not angry. Not broken. Just certain. This wasn't the moment I lost her. This was the moment. I understood. She was never really mine to begin with. The next morning, everything looked the same. The same school gates. The same crowded entrance. The same voices filling the air. Nothing had changed. Except me. I walked forward calmly. My steps steady, unhurried. No rush. No hesitation. Just clarity. Because after last night, there was nothing left to question. The parking lot was already crowded. Students gathered again. Just like yesterday. Same excitement. Same attention. Focused on the same thing. The car. My car. I stopped a few steps away, observing quietly. He was there again. Leaning against it. Relaxed. Confident. Like nothing had changed. Like everything belonged to him. And the crowd believed it. Of course they did. It was easier that way. That car is insane. He's definitely rich. No one else could own something like that. I almost smiled. Not out of humor. But because of how predictable it all was. Assumptions. Appearances. Easy conclusions. I stepped forward. Slow. Quiet. Unnoticed at first. Just another face in the background. Just like always. And then, I stopped right beside the car. Close enough now. Close enough for it to matter. He glanced at me briefly, then looked away, dismissing me instantly, like I wasn't worth the attention. That was fine. I didn't need his attention. I reached into my pocket slowly, pulling out the keys. Small, simple, but enough. For a second, everything felt still. Not because the world stopped, but because something was about to change. And then, click. The sound cut through the noise. Sharp, clear, final. The headlights flashed. Once, bright against the daylight. Conversation stopped. Just for a moment. Enough to notice. Enough to question. I didn't say anything. Didn't look at anyone. I just walked forward, opening the driver's door like it was the most normal thing in the world. Silence spread slowly through the crowd. Confusion. Realization. Disbelief. All at once. Wait, someone muttered. That's his car. I paused for a second, one hand resting on the door. Then I looked up. Not at everyone. Just at her. She was standing there. Frozen. Her expression completely different now. No smile. No certainty. Just shock. Like something didn't make sense anymore. Like her version of reality had just broken. Our eyes met for a brief moment. And in that moment, everything was clear. Not because I explained it. Not because I said anything. But because she finally saw it. The truth. Too late. I got into the car calmly, closing the door behind me. The outside noise faded instantly. Just like before. Quiet. Controlled. Mine. I rested my hands on the wheel, staring forward for a second. No anger. No satisfaction. Just clarity. Because this wasn't about proving anything. It never was. It was about understanding. And now, everyone understood. Including her. I started the engine. The low sound filled the silence outside. And without looking back, I drove forward, leaving behind the crowd. The confusion. The realization. And her. Because some truths don't need words. They just need a moment. And that moment had already passed. The rooftop was quiet. Higher than everything else. Far from the noise. Far from the crowd. The wind moved steadily, brushing past like it carried things away. Thoughts. Feelings. Things better left behind. The sky was painted in shades of orange and purple. The kind of sunset that made everything feel temporary. I stood near the edge, looking out at the city in the distance. Calm. Still. Quiet. It felt right to be here. Away from everything. Until I heard footsteps behind me. Quick. Uneven. Hesitant. But urgent. I didn't turn around. I already knew who it was. Wait. Her voice. Softer than usual. Not confident. Not steady. I remained still. Silent. Letting her speak first. Why didn't you say anything? I let out a slow breath. Then finally turned around. She stood a few steps away. Her expression tense. Her eyes searching for something. An answer. A reaction. Maybe even forgiveness. About what? I asked calmly. My voice steady. Controlled. That seemed to shake her more than anything else. The car, she said quickly. Why didn't you tell me it was yours? I looked at her for a moment. Not angry. Not surprised. Just observing. Would it have mattered? The question hung in the air between us. Heavy. Unavoidable. She hesitated. Just for a second. But that second was enough. Of course it would have, she said. But her voice lacked certainty. I tilted my head slightly. Really? The wind picked up around us, carrying the silence that followed. She looked away briefly, then back at me. I didn't know, she said. I thought. You thought it was his. I finished the sentence for her. Not harshly. Just factually. She didn't respond. Because there was nothing to say. It was true. I took a small step closer. Not aggressive. Just enough to close the distance between us slightly. And that was enough, I continued quietly. You didn't question it. You didn't check. You just decided. Her eyes dropped. Guilt. Regret. Maybe both. It wasn't like that, she said softly. I didn't argue. Didn't interrupt. Just waited. Because sometimes, silence forces the truth out faster than words. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, she added. There it was. Not denial. Not an excuse. Just regret. But regret doesn't change what already happened. I nodded slightly. I know. She looked up at me again. Surprised. You do? Yeah, I said calmly. That's the problem. Her expression faltered. You didn't mean to. You just did. I paused for a moment, letting the words settle, which means that's who you are when it matters. The wind moved between us again, stronger this time, like it was pushing everything forward. Her eyes filled slightly, not fully crying, but close. So that's it, she asked quietly. You're just going to walk away. I looked at her for a long second, not with anger, not with pain, just clarity. You already walked away, I said. I just didn't stop you. That hit harder than anything else. I could see it in her face. The realization. The weight of it. But it was too late. Not because I was angry, but because I understood now. And once you understand something clearly, you can't go back to not knowing. I stepped past her slowly, heading toward the door. She didn't stop me. She didn't say anything else. Because there was nothing left to say. And as I walked away, the only thing I felt wasn't anger, wasn't sadness. It was something quieter, something stronger, the kind of feeling that comes when you finally let go. The road was empty, stretching endlessly ahead, untouched, open. The first light of sunrise painted the sky in soft gold, breaking through the darkness of the night. It wasn't sudden. It didn't force its way in. It just appeared, quietly, like a new beginning that didn't need permission. I drove forward, steady, calm, my hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. The engine hummed softly beneath me, controlled, familiar, mine. The city slowly faded behind me, buildings turning into silhouettes, then into nothing. And for the first time in a long while, it felt right to leave it all behind. No noise. No expectations. No unfinished words. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but full. Full of space. Full of possibility. I exhaled slowly. My eyes focused on the road ahead. Not once did I look back, because there was nothing left behind that I needed to carry with me. Not the memories. Not the confusion. Not even the pain. Especially not the pain. It wasn't that it disappeared. It didn't. But it changed. It became lighter. Easier to hold. Easier to leave behind. Because now, it made sense. Everything did. The way she looked at him. The way she didn't hesitate. The way she chose, without even realizing it. And the way I stood there, watching it all. Finally understanding. Not everyone who walks into your life is meant to stay. Some people don't come to be part of your story. They come to change it. To show you something. Even if it hurts. Even if it breaks something you believed in. Because sometimes, you need to see the truth clearly, before you can move forward. I adjusted my grip on the wheel slightly. The sunlight growing stronger with every second. Warm now. Not cold. Not distant. Just present. Like this moment. Like this feeling. Calm. Certain. Free. I let out a quiet breath. Almost like a release. Not of regret. Not of anger. But of everything that no longer mattered. Because holding on to it wouldn't change anything. And letting go didn't mean losing. It meant choosing something better. Myself. The road stretched further ahead, glowing under the rising sun. Endless. Open. Mine to take. And for the first time, I wasn't driving away from something. I was driving toward something. Something new. Something real. Something that didn't depend on anyone else. I didn't know exactly where it would lead. And for once, that didn't bother me. Because not knowing meant possibility. It meant freedom. And as the sunlight filled the road ahead, one thought stayed with me. Simple. Clear. Final. Some endings aren't really endings at all. They're just the beginning of something better.